Hey y'all, good morning. Hope you're doing good today. So in today's message, we're going to be talking about how pervasive the lie is in our lives. And I'm not grinning about that. I'm grinning about trying to get my stuff together this morning to get the message prepared for you and to get to the point where I can present it in the right way for you all. Fortunately, my notes actually came together really easily. It was one of those days where everything just aligned and it was just flowing, and that's always great. And I got some sleep, but I'm still waking up, so that's why I'm all puffy and kind of trying to get myself centered and focused. I've got my coffee. Hope you've got something good to drink this morning. I always balance my caffeine with plenty of water, so don't forget to hydrate. That's really important. I want to take this opportunity to mention that for you all, but I hope you're doing good. I hope you're doing well. I hope your day's off to a good start, whatever time of day it is you're watching this. If it was a bad day for you, I hope tomorrow's a lot better for you. And so I just thank you for coming along to hear the message. So yes, we're going to talk about how pervasive the lie is in our lives, and we're going to illustrate or illuminate this point by looking at two different facets, you might say, of it. Okay, the first one is what I call my number one red flag, and we're going to examine that. The other thing is how our intuition gets silenced, because this all works together to paint this bigger picture that will, in the end, work for our good so that we can operate smarter, with more wisdom. And that's only going to benefit us, right? And our loved ones. I've got a little seed that just happened to float into my Jeep. Can you see that? Isn't that cool? I think it's a good sign, don't you? So, yes. So let's dive in. All right. In real life, there's like a, you might call a secret or a hidden language, okay? But here's what I mean. It's hidden to the ones that are benefiting from living a lie. And it's not hidden or secret to you because you have developed this gift that you have of having the eyes to see. You see what I'm saying? This is how God works all things for the good of those who love Him. You have to work at it. You have to, when I say work at it, I mean His grace is a gift, right? But we have to be the ones that have to strive and work to stay out of the flesh. You know what's called to stay out of the flesh, out of all these snares of living in the physical material world, so that we can keep our mind on higher things. And in doing so, that's what gives us the eyes to see clearly, and therefore the eyes to detect things that that others feel like are really well hidden. Okay, I know you know what I'm talking about. So let's expand. So it's like bringing these things to light, okay? And in so doing, it's like it's just between us, and it's like we're in our own secret club, like the Illuminati or something, whatever you want to call it, because we are illuminating these things, or this numinous aspect within us, inside of us. Okay, this gift that we have is doing the illuminating for us, right? Because we have done the work to have the eyes to see, to be able to recognize. There's a reason why the Bible says to be still and know that I am God. There's a requirement on our behalf. It's not like we can just go about our day and stuff just, falls in our lap. Maybe it does sometimes, but I feel like, based on my experience and my studies and research, there's participation that has to happen on our part, right? So let's pretend that you have a BS-ometer, okay? And it's invisible, All right. And as you're operating in your day-to-day life, this BS-ometer has a baseline, or like this gauge of normalcy, and what that is balance. Okay, let me just share with you. So my great-granddad told my dad, my dad's granddad told him, and he still remembers it to this day. I guess, you know, he really admired his granddad, and they were very close. And I get the impression that this was said to him when he was a young boy. I don't know, I'll have to ask him. But what his granddad told him was, a little bit of everything is good for you, but too much of anything will kill you. Right? And we know there's exceptions to that. You know, there's some things, you know, some substances, for example, in this world that just a tiny bit, you know, would kill you. But so there's exceptions, but in general, right, it's kind of a pretty good rule of thumb. So taking that concept, it's just like, you know, we've mentioned this before. It's like when something is really true, then it's true at all levels, or at least multiple levels, right? So I mentioned my number one red flag. What is that? I'm gonna give you an example, okay? So people who are, you know, they're living a lie, they have a double life, they're just, you know, their whole life is falsehood, you might say, narcissists, I mean, whatever, scammers, con artists. Sometimes they wear masks that are too perfect. I'm talking not a hair out of place, kind of perfect. You know what I'm saying? Keeping up with the Joneses, and so polished and so well spoken, and just an absolute pillar to their community, and all these aspects. They're literally, they seem too perfect. All right, to me, now that I've experienced the things I have, and I've, you know, been gifted with another level of discernment, you know, thank God, this is a dead giveaway to me. When I see someone like that, it's like, you know, going back to that ometer, that BS-ometer, it's like looking at that gauge of normalcy, and, you know, which is true normalcy, which is balance. That tells me that we know that's not true, because you're presenting yourself as perfect, and we know for a fact that not one human being on this planet is perfect. So just spending a few minutes with you tells me something's off. I'm not going to sit here and pass judgment on you, but I am going to make an observation, you know, and note this within my own mind of, hey, there's a flag. This, you know, it's kind of pinging that radar, right? And then on the flip side, we have people that wear masks that are too self-deprecating, or too humble, or too modest, you know, or too down on themselves, or whatever it is. It's kind of like, you know, the opposite end. You have too perfect, or you have just too many things going wrong, too many imperfections, you know, either in that person, or, you know, those kind of people that talk bad about themselves all the time, and at some point you realize they're literally fishing for compliments or fishing for your attention, and for you to constantly boost them up, or it could be that they're complaining about all the imperfections in their life, and so they're trying to I think the word is pander to your giving nature. You see what I'm saying? So there's these extremities. And it's the extremes. When we observe extremes, that should be the first red flag that pops up. Okay? Because we know people aren't perfect. And we also know people aren't totally incapacitated. Most people, you know, to the point where they're unable to better themselves, like, at all, forever. We all have seasons where maybe we need a little help, but not forever and ever and ever. So, so you can see how these two extremes illuminate something fishy. So what we're doing is we're examining an issue of lacking truthfulness or honesty in one's actions. It's kind of like, this is how I view it. It's kind of like they're wearing fig leaves, but they're they think they're modest and normal size fig leaves, and we look at them and we're like, oh my God, they're huge. You know, they're way disproportionate, and it's kind of like that in itself. It's like, man, you know, it shows us that they are indeed wearing fig leaves at all, because they're so flamboyant. There's, you know, so yeah, they're overcompensating, basically, right? There's an extreme, and I don't know why I was reminded of this, and I'll share it with you just for a laugh, I guess. But when I was talking about going to the extreme, I was reminded of Billy Madison. It's an old Adam Sandler movie, I think from the 90s. And in the movie, there's a kind of a weird scene in there with Chris Farley, which, you know, he was just a wild comedian anyway. But he was friends with, you know, Adam Sandler's character in the movie, you know, with Billy. And he was trying to impress this school teacher, right? Billy Madison was. And so he was trying to, you know, pass all of his schooling. And, you know, like, honestly, you know, without cheating and doing it the right way. He was going back and trying to go through every grade, and so he was studying. And then they had this scene with Chris Farley where he was, you know, every time Billy Madison would get an answer correct, you know, it was a game they were playing, and Chris would, you know, like strip off, you know, like his socks, and then it would be like his shirt, or it was so stupid. But it makes you remember, you know, that's just it. It's, for whatever reason, it's like extremes tend to register in our mind. I think it's like some kind of primitive preservation type instinct we have, where, you know, something gets logged if it's extreme. And maybe that's it. Maybe that also plays a part into us overriding our intention, which we're about to talk about. But if someone makes this impression on us, you know, like, for example, there's this phrase or this term called love bombing that narcissists do, where they go over the top trying to impress you in the beginning to hook you into their con, and then there's like this sleight of hands, or this switch, right, and this reversal that you don't recognize it. And so it's kind of like they're tapping into these primitive innate instincts we have, and anything extreme like that registers on such an intense level, a deep level with us, that we just kind of latch onto that as whatever it was that was extreme, good or bad. That's the truth of it. Which also, in another way, might work like somebody who's gone through an extreme trauma, you know, may never recover, ever, despite the rest of their life being just totally safe and full of blessings. They may remain in this victim mindset forever, because this event made such an impression on them. It was so extreme. So there's something to be said about extremes, and we truly do have to work ourselves at coming to a place of balance, overriding this primitive instinct we have to log and register extremes as, you know, what should be in the forefront of our mind. Because again, we have these con artists that are hacking that. See? So I don't know why I shared that Billy Madison scene with you, but I remember it. I guess that illustrates my point without me even trying. So, you know, and that's the thing. It's appropriate for exaggeration to be in the movies, you know. And why? I think sometimes there's layers of meaning, you know, in movies. They're kind of an art form, you know, like the fine arts, you know, just like the old artists, the painters from, you know, different eras throughout history. They would hide a lot of esoteric truths and political you know, agendas, and just all kind of stuff that you literally couldn't speak out loud, or you'd get killed for it. They would hide that stuff in the paintings, right? Well, today in movies, you know, there's a lot of symbolism that's fun to kind of dive into and look into, and archetypal psychology that's represented. So, you know, we can learn from movies in that manner through the symbols that are placed in there for that purpose. There's humor that's extreme in movies. That's healthy. And you know, a lot of times, that, as far as extremes go, I always try to stay in balance. Hang on, y'all. But humor, that's something that we can all kind of go to the extreme with sometimes, and just over the top, just in a moment, if we're feeling it, because it's healthy and good for the soul. It relieves a lot of stress, but not just in movies, right? But now let's get on to how our intuition gets silenced, which we kind of touched on a little bit, right? So let me go ahead and share this. This spirit of extremism, you might say, is normalized in the collective too, and we're going to talk about that. So intuition is that still small voice, okay? The opposite of extreme and loud and flamboyant. So when we witness extremism in our daily lives, it makes us gaslight ourselves, and we self-sabotage, right? Because we silence or deny that small voice inside. So it's really like self-sacrifice, like the greater self, the higher self, sacrificing that, putting that to the side, and focusing on whatever's, big in front of us, right? And taking that on just as this unconscious, automatic kind of thing that we do is the truth, when the truth is actually coming from this still small voice inside. There's this sleight of hands in that manner, even within ourselves, and we don't recognize it. Now, so we know that the voice that really matters is the one inside, and how many of us, I mentioned this verse earlier, to be still and know, how many of us really do take the time to be still, to really check in with it, and make sure we keep that line of communication open between our conscious awareness and that inner guiding light, that still small voice. Let me give you some examples of how pervasive extremism is in our society, right? First of all, the news. Hands down. It's both in how it's presented. It's over the top. These people, the newscasters, are, to talk about, acting perfect. They don't even seem real. It's like they're acting, even in just talking with us. It's like, I don't know if they're not allowed to cough or scratch, or, they're just it's too, perfect. It's everything. Even their laughter is like mechanical, or robotic. It's just, so that's an extreme that's presented to us in the news, just through the way it's presented. And then also the people they interview. Y'all, there's this comedian, I'm gonna have to put the link in the description. He's so funny. He kind of does like a what's it called, I'll drop the word in if I can think of it. A roast. He does like a roast, I guess, of this stereotypical person that, all the news channels seem to find out and about to interview. Because for whatever reason, they seem to find some pretty extreme personalities to interview, and it's actually turns out to be comical. But every single thing, and even the topics, they talk about that phrase, beating a dead horse, which that's an awful saying, but it's like they just go on and on and on and on about these topics, and they just keep our mind like just totally stuck and ruminating on just bad stuff, because they perpetuate that, and they just make something that's really kind of like this big of a deal, turn it into this big of a deal. And there are things that really are a big deal. I'm not saying there's not, but you see my point. They overinflate everything, right? It's all about making money. Yeah. And then we have the political climate that can be very extreme and cause extreme division, which is perpetuated by the news, right? And those corporations. And then we have churches. And please don't view any of this that I'm saying today, because I'll be saying a lot more, in black and white thinking, that I'm trying to say everyone is bad, or every church is bad, or every medicine is bad, or every doctor is bad, or I'm not doing that. I'm just talking in general, in generalization, so that we can kind of get the big picture. But churches too, certainly are a great example of extremism. If you think about, sometimes, I say some churches, it's kind of like they can go overboard, with their self-righteousness, and again, like kind of in alignment with a video I did last night that wasn't published till early this morning, unfortunately. But they go overboard with judgment sometimes and totally undermining what they're all about, and self-righteousness and boasting and asking for donations, and it kind of you can't help but understand why some people are put off by that. It's like, yeah, I mean, no wonder. Then you have, materialism, people that are just very much rooted in that, and it's like nothing's ever good enough. That's a lot of what marketing is all about these days, to keep you coming back, to be a repeat customer forever and ever. They don't even make things to last anymore, right? But it's all about what's bigger and better and best. Then you have the medical system. And it's kind of like, as far as extremism there, it's like, well, they're never going to say this part, but I'll say this part to you. Let's say you have an issue and you go to an honest and true and real doctor that isn't motivated by or pressured or whatever by others that they are entangled with that have these how do I put this? I just want to talk straight to you. You see what I'm saying though, right? There's people out there that their number one priority is financial gain at any cost, and there's a lot of ties to these entities and things like that, right? So let's just say, hypothetically, you have an issue and you go to a doctor who doesn't have any of those ties. It's truly independent, and they are reasonable, right? If we're trying to be reasonable in all things, which is good, keep that balance, they're going to say, well, here's your issue. I've evaluated that, you're not going to die immediately, but it's something that we need to look at. So, let's take a look at our options. First of all, you would be presented with options. See, here's this option for this drug, and here's all of the risks associated with it and the side effects as well. Here are some studies that show the effectiveness of this, and then here's what the trials said, and XYZ. And then over here's another option, and this has been found to not have any side effects, but maybe it takes a little bit longer, and it has a X% success rate. Okay, so there's another option. And then over here, you see what I'm saying? Now, I understand that common sense tells us, what kind of doctor or any professional would have that kind of time to sit down and do that with every person. But I do feel like at least they could be prepared and present these ideas to their customer, the patient, you that are paying for their services and you're coming to them for a consultation. You would think at least they could present you with, these breadcrumbs that you could then take on yourself and go home and make an educated decision. But in all my years of living, I've never experienced anything like that. If you have, I think you're very lucky, and I think it's rare to find a doctor like that. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure many of you probably know people like this too, and I'm not trying to throw shade on anyone like this. I think I'm using that phrase right? I don't really know. I've just heard it, but I'm not trying to say anything bad about these people. But I mean, I've even known people who are sales reps for medical companies, and so there's benefits to doctors get paid per prescription and per injection, and there's even like consequences for insurance companies to continue working with them if they don't do certain things in their practices. I'm sure you're aware of some of this too, but I've spent a lot of time examining this stuff. But my point is, your expectation and what you get in that situation are not always aligned. And so the responsibility, it does fall on us to educate ourselves and to listen to that still small voice. It's life-saving. So I just, I've written so many notes on this particular point right here. You know, how insurance companies are exploited at the expense of your body. We've even known, you know, people can die from preventative exams and things like that. I just please always listen to your intuition first, and always do your research. And when you research, you know, you can find studies published about conditions and alternative medicine, natural medicines, and pharmaceuticals. You can find all this stuff published, if you look for it, from different countries all over the world that have different regulations and laws concerning, you know, freedom of speech. And you know, I found that there's some avenues you can walk down that are not as biased as others. So anyway, it's true. You know, there's a lot of, just in general, talking about medicine, and there's a lot of them that disrupt the natural balance within our bodies, you know. And it's like, is this natural balance in our bodies truly unrecognized, or does it come down to intentional ignorance with regards to these professionals, you know, and exploitation and benefits? You know, what's the motivation? So I'm going to take this moment while I have it and share with you some things that I do. And I just want to pause here and say, I'm not an expert. I'm not a doctor. Please seek professional help for anything you need at all, psychological, physical, whatever it is. So I just want to put that out there. But always use your intuition. So what I found to be helpful with anytime I have a respiratory illness, I love thyme tea. It's been very, very helpful, as well as mullein leaf tea has been incredible. Salt has helped anytime I have a lot of mucus. I love to eat salted peanuts, roasted salted peanuts, and it helps tremendously. And then coconut oil, I don't know if you're familiar with this, but it actually has properties that kills bacteria, and you can research all about it. I encourage you to just take these as breadcrumbs and further research for yourself, please, and make your own judgment on things. But I have found coconut oil to be incredible for a lot of different uses, just like apple cider vinegar. And there's a lot of things that sometimes we go to the extreme in our life and we're harming ourselves. It's more harm than good, and we don't know it. Like if you're brushing your teeth too hard, you have, you know, receding gums, and you just kind of slack off on that, and just be conscious of not hitting your gums so hard. Change your toothbrush to a softer bristle, and you know, nourish your gums with coconut oil and stuff like that. You may actually see them, you know, come back. The medical system teaches us a lot of times that there are some things that are irreversible, like cavities and hernias and receding gums, and I could go on. But there's a lot of people who have experienced the opposite, and that's just one small example of being told one thing and experiencing another. So just please always do your own research, and also please also research the toxicity of anything that you take, or anything before you take it into your body, right? So I could go on and on about this, but we'll just leave that there. It's important to me. I'm passionate about it, right? So let me close with this. Let's reframe how we define beautiful. Beautiful does not equal perfect. Whether we're talking about physical appearance, physical appearance, personality, no flaws, the perfect solution to any problems, perfection with an industry, you know, like just take this pill and everything's fixed, or have this procedure and it's all done. Just be wary of perfection in all its forms. Maybe if you like journaling, take some time to journal out, you know, how do you see perfection playing out, you know, in this world, and just use your critical eye there, okay? So beautiful does not equal perfect. I would say good, right, does not equal perfect the way it is in this reality. Beautiful, if we reframe it to mean real, is good stuff. That's good stuff, all right? Because it means when something is real It's beautiful because it will produce good fruit, not risky fruit or unsure or foggy or hypocritical or potentially damaging fruit. It's good fruit. Look at the fruit in all of its presentations. See how you can find the fruit everywhere too, right? And please don't let others tell you about the fruit. You have your own inner judgment radar system, but it's a still small voice. Please don't let the extremism of this modern culture and our current reality drown it out, please. You know, in examining old paradigms perpetuated by society, we see how they have essentially possessed us. And when we shift and realign our perceptions, then the things that we used to normalize, they become alien to us. It's like we get recalibrated. And this is the formation of our falsehood-ometer. This is the formation of our discernment. So I hope that this has been very helpful for you, insightful at least. I hope that it got the wheels turning. I hope it was entertaining. I just thank you so much for coming along to hear the message. I hope that you have a beautiful day, and I'll see you again very soon.